Thank you. And we reconvene to open session. There are nothing to report at this point from closed session. We do have one adjustment at this point, unless there are other recommendations. That is the student trustee report will come after item 10.1A. So to see that, Trustee Peterson? So you'll be coming on soon. Okay, the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Lopez, I have a flag.
All right, everyone stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Crystal. Okay. Public comments on non-agenda items. The public may address the board on any consent action items or item not listed on the agenda. Pursuant to the Brown Act, during this period, the board cannot consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any comments at this time?
No comments. I would just like to say that if there is someone in the audience that would like to make a public comment and have not used the public comment Google form earlier today, you can raise your hand and then I will chat. We will let you speak when the item is comes up.
Okay. All right, item 9, approval of consent agenda. Any questions or comments? And do I have a motion? Do we have a slide regarding our donations? Usually we do. It's hard on Zoom.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Oops. Sorry.
It's all right. You're making me look good.
I'm not sure. There.
Okay. Just notice, please, that two of our Hillsburg Lumber and Garrett Ace each donated, and I will tell you 100 face masks each. And I'm particularly proud of this because I walked in, I said, can we have some face masks? And they said, here, take these, there's 100. So that helped. That was a few weeks ago and it was quite needed at the time. So we thank them and all of those who donate. Do we have a motion for the consent? And can you take that slide off so I can see everybody?
All motion.
Thank you.
A second.
And a second, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Public comments on agenda items. Members of the public have the right to address the governing board on any items of interest, provided it relates to the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Your request to address the board will be heard at the time when the item is being discussed. In accordance with board policy 9323, individual speakers shall be allowed a total of 3 minutes to address the board for a maximum of 20 minutes on each subject matter. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional speakers speak only if they have something new to add. Thank you. And item number 10.1, student learning. Coordinator Conjure, this is about COVID-19. Diana, are you there?
Yeah, I was having a hard time unmuting. You'd think I'd be a professional by now. Okay, I'm stepping in for Chris tonight.
May I ask you to pause 1 moment, Dan? Thank you for mentioning that. I failed to mention that our superintendent is chaperoning our boys, excuse me, our basketball team's up in, I think it's Crescent City. So he will come in and out as he's able to. Just so you all know, he is here, but he's not here. So again, Diane, thank you for letting me interrupt. Please go ahead.
Sure. So I'm bringing tonight a little bit of a COVID update and sort of the state of the state as it relates to COVID in the school district and around the county and in the state. So you want to go to the next slide, Karen? I think we don't really need a reminder, but I'm going to sort of briefly go over where we are, you know, from the first week of January to now the first week of February or second week is wow. You know, when we came back to school, we were hit hard, like, you know, I know every school district was, and we had a lot of, that's okay, I have my slides here, but we had a lot, I'm going to keep talking until you pull them back up. We had a lot of staff absences, shortages of subs, you know, a dramatic drop in student attendance. And that coupled with the mandate to keep up this level of reporting and tracing, and when all hands were on deck, you know, there's just so many, you know, just not enough people to do it. So, but I do want to point out, and I think Chris would want to say this with the passion that I want to convey, is that our teachers did such an awesome, our whole staff, it's not even just our teachers, but our whole staff did such an awesome job, you know, from transportation pitching in to literally every you know, teacher absence was picked up by their own colleagues, you know, and that's a lot of work, and they stepped up and did a fantastic job. So yeah, I just want to acknowledge that. So I think Chris just wanted to showcase how the absences have changed, how, you know, our enrollment gave you some context there so we could gather some percentages. But you can see, you know, we're now at a 10% approximate absence rate. And that's what it is in a typical year. You know, I went back and looked at 2019 and 2020. 2021 is not a good comparison, but 2019, 2020, and we were running the same absence rate. So you can tell that it's really diminished. So tonight, really what I'm bringing forward to you is our updated COVID safety plan. And just as a reminder, the COVID safety plan consists of two different documents. The first one being the prevention program, the CPP, and then the second one being the guidance checklist. So the first one required by Cal OSHA, those are lots of things related to staff, of course, not so much about student. And then the second thing is what the Department of Public Health requires. I want to point out that as a part of the checklist in the very beginning, the Public Health Department was asking us for individual site plans. So those were plans that were specific to each school site on how they would do things like ingress, egress, testing, even masking differentiations, perhaps how they might cohort students, which isn't a thing anymore, how we're going to screen visitors, you name it. It really was a beefy document that had a lot of specificity that's just not applicable anymore, and is no longer required. So we'd like to get rid of that. So Karen did a fantastic job of going through and trying to highlight the major changes to the CPP. And I think overall, I'm not going to read this, of course, but overall, physical distancing is really not the primary focus anymore. We do encourage it, especially when students are congregating, lining up, things like that. But really the recent guidance is suggesting that a minimal physical distancing isn't really required when other things are in place, like masking, ventilation, etc. So we struck that most of paragraph 6 in alignment with the California Department of Public Health and the CDC. Face coverings, boy, whew, hot topic there. So of course, we're governed by the California Department of Public Health. And in some cases, as we know, the Sonoma County Department of Public Health, who can be a little bit more restrictive. So face coverings outdoors were always at the discretion, although they were strongly recommended. So always at our discretion is what I should have said. Now neither Sonoma County nor the state is recommending any longer outdoor masking. And so we would suggest that we no longer require outdoor masking. Of course, we are still obliged to do indoor masking. That's still the requirement for all K-12 sites. So we will be doing that. The other big pivot, which I think was a surprise to everyone, they went from 14 days of isolation to 10 days. Now they're at 5. So, and the other thing is you can come back after 5 days, provided you can provide a negative test. So the school district has, I think, done a great job of building our rapid antigen program. So we're able to provide those tests not only to staff, but to students, so they can avail themselves of this new guidance and get back as soon as they test negative. Again, 11 is really just more about the same thing about those 5 days. This guidance still applies if you choose not to test, or if you keep testing positive, you can return on day 11. That is really not much of a change, just to highlight there. I don't think the rest of it has changed. And then the school guidance checklist, big changes there. A lot around how we notify. In the beginning, you might recall, we had to figure out who was sitting for more than 15 minutes within 6 feet of a student at a given moment. And that is no longer required with a group tracing approach. And that's what our school district has opted to do. And that is literally where we concentrate more on testing and focus on symptomatic students and testing and staff, and notify literally everybody who might have shared airspace with a positive case. So more global notifications, but a lot more testing. So the other changes to the guidance checklist is there's no more recommendation for cohorting or stable group structures. That's not a requirement anymore. I can say that the elementary sites do keep the kids together as much as possible, and I still think that's a good thing. And I think we're still maintaining seating charts, or at least we were up until the time we switched this. And then again, just like in the CPP, just the changes to the workplace, being able to come back in 5 days is a big thing. Again, just reflecting the change in physical distancing, no longer a thing, and the elimination of individual site plans and some of the things that those addressed, the site plans themselves. Finally, some things we just wanted to highlight is 2 big areas that were under consideration is the notion of volunteers and visitors. At the very beginning, we didn't allow any volunteers or visitors from, for pretty much any reason, as you know, like I don't even think we allowed board members to tour. And so our suggestion is now, following the new guidance, is that we sort of slowly integrate visitors and volunteers literally on a case-by-case basis. And it will be a site decision. So what we're looking for as we develop a process for gathering all of the vaccination information that Francesca might need from an HR perspective is, people who might have the occasion to visit, like a parent tour, or some volunteers who might assist with a special event, or something of that nature. I don't think each site will be different based on their needs. I know the high school has a real desire to get some of those club advisors who are often outside, not like a community member, to get them there. And that would be appropriate, I would think. But we will go very slow in that area. And then athletic testing. That's always just been a strong recommendation. We've done a lot of athletic testing. And so we're going to recommend that we continue testing all unvaccinated athletes. That's in alignment with public health guidance for indoor and high contact sports. And we're doing that using the weekly rapid antigen. So we've been opening up kind of a, back door of the DO testing site every Monday. At first, in the very beginning, we did it every day and we were booked every day. But now the number of cases have started to diminish. There aren't that many symptomatic individuals. And so we're only doing it from 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock. And most of our kids are registered. Anecdotally, I can tell you, we have about 1,100 staff and students registered. And I think we've administered probably about 3,000 tests right now. So we are cooking along. And it's really easy. You just need to register in advance and we get you tested and hopefully get you back in school.
Okay.
And then, yeah, that's it.
Are there any
I think so.
questions, trustees? So I have one question,
Sure.
and that is regarding visitors to the site, parents, whomever. I'm assuming, but I just want confirmation, please, that the school administrators will be sending out this information as well as, specific information regarding how to come on campus, when you can come on campus, et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah, I think, we have some, in the interest of getting it in front of the board, we still have a little bit of background work to do, with the process with Franny. And then each site administrator will message that out to the staff, the process, the kinds of documentation that we require, and possibly the limitations, for the visitor or volunteer.
Right, okay, because that's
Yeah.
obviously critical, because I'm sure there are people chomping at the bit to get in and to be on the campus. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Any
Sure.
other questions or comments?
No, just
good
along.
news.
Go ahead.
No, just good news that we're able to get a little bit of normalcy back. That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Inching our way. And I also, kind of to echo what Mike said, want to make sure we're communicating really clearly to parents and families about how the rules have changed, what the
Mhm.
expectations are, et cetera. I mean, it's getting less confusing because it's getting simpler, but it can still be confusing for people, I think.
A parent described it to me the other day as whiplash. She just said, wait, did I just get whiplash from this? And I said, I think so. I think we all did.
There's a lot of
And-
whiplash right now. Yeah.
A lot of whiplash. So I don't know what's around the corner. I can't predict it, but we've done a good job of rolling with it. And I think Chris has done a great job of messaging out to the community, and I'll leave it up to the individual sites to how they message it out to their staff and their families. But I think they're ready to go and ready to, build capacity for everything that we're trying to do.
Diane, I think the change with the statewide masking mandate is
Mhm.
kind of another reason to communicate really clearly to parents and the community in general where we are and what is kind of what we're looking ahead to and so on very clearly. Because I know I was out and about today and in the store, 75% of people weren't wearing masks for the first time in forever. And I think
Mhm.
that's questions about schools for everybody too.
Yeah, we are at the same time, we're messaging that masks are optional outdoors. It's a family choice. It's a student choice. You can still continue to wear them. That's fine. I think the elementaries are looking to have that sort of go into effect on Tuesday. And that will, at the same time, they'll message out that we're still under the K-12 guidance by the state. So we didn't get the no mask indoor pass. We didn't get the hall pass. So we're still required to wear masks indoors. And I don't see that changing anytime really soon.
The students are asking too. That's the other reason I raise it,
I
because I think
know.
parents are concerned, but now the students have been
Mhm.
wearing masks for 2 years most of the time because they were vaccinated later and whatever, some students. And they feel really nervous about going out in public without masks on, and the prospect that they'll sit in classrooms without masks on. So just as much information as we have and as much as we can kind of look ahead to in our communications, I think is really, really positive, with good information, of course, but
Yeah.
just
yeah.
acknowledge that this is a big personal change, both for families and for our students.
Agreed. But I'll definitely point that out, and the principals are on tonight, so they'll
Thank
hear
you.
they'll hear
Thank
the good words.
That's good. And again, kudos to everybody, and especially the health team. You guys have done a great job keeping it together. And I will point out that our superintendent also joined the health team and is doing swabs. So good for him. But seriously,
He loves it. Like, don't let him think
anything to
he's
get out of
suffering.
him.
He loves it.
But seriously, you guys are doing a great job for a long time. That's a
Yeah.
big lift, and we appreciate it.
Lots of good folks on that team, so good.
you.
All right.
So we are moving to the student trustee report, and I'm going to ask Karen a quick question. Do you have a slide or no? It's either way is okay.
I'm gonna ask Annie. Annie, you sent me what you wanted to share with everybody. If you'd like me to, I can display that when you're talking about it, or if you just want to talk, that would be great too.
I'm good with whatever. I can just start talking unless you guys really want it displayed. I don't know how to do that, but you probably could.
It would be helpful for us who are not as fast hearers, listeners as others. So I would ask that you put it
Okay, I had it and now it's gone.
on, or not.
Let me find it. There it is. Maybe not. There.
Sweet. Okay. So boys soccer, girls basketball, and boys basketball all qualified for NTS brackets, and all games are tonight. So we're wishing them the best of luck. Hope they're doing great. Wrestling also has 3 players qualifying for the North Coast Section Championships next Friday and Saturday. So Chewy, Charlie, and Anthony all qualified. So we also are wishing them the best of luck. And FFA week is currently going on at the high school. There have been spirit dress days such as Crazy Sock Day and Just Like Your Favorite Teacher Day going on all week. And we've had lunch events every day this week. And our monthly meeting is tonight, which is obviously why I have to leave early. And Hillsburg FFA also recently had 5 students win regional proficiencies. So we had 3 already graduated students, which are Fiona, Alexis, and Claire, and 2 current students, which are Dante and me. And the projects will be sent out to compete at the state level next week. So hopefully those do good as well. And that is the end of my report. Questions?
Well, will we get to see or understand what the winners, past winners, and also the current participants, what their projects are? I mean, it's great that you're going, but so what are you doing? You don't have to tell me tonight, but maybe at the next board meeting, report out or do a little demo or something. It'd be great to see.
You mean proficiency projects?
Yeah. What's
They're
your,
all available online on the California website, but they're also, so as part of agriculture education, you do an SAE, which is like a project in the industry that relates to agriculture. So like, for example, I worked at a local vineyard management company. I know Claire did an agri-science project, which is like basically a science project related to ag. And then you basically write a paper on it, and then they're judged on, it has to like have developed over years. So normally it's like seniors or juniors or a year out students who compete. And then it's judged on how much has developed, like how better you got over the years. And also how much it's like going to benefit you in the future. So like if you're going to do something that has nothing to do with what you want to do, or like you learned no skills in, then you probably would not do well. But relating it to skills you want to use in the future definitely gets you points. So that's kind of like what proficiencies are. And yeah, hopefully that
I
helps.
guess what I'm saying, it would be, don't do it now, but like yours, it would be nice to hear just some bullet points or whatever, just so we get familiar with, or I get familiar and others of what all you guys are doing so well. But think about that if that works. I'd love to hear more. Are there any other trustees' questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it. Moving on to 10.1B, A-to-G completion improvement grant plan. Director Fender.
Hi, good evening. I'll give Karen a minute to get the slide deck up. So the A-to-G completion grant is a grant that all districts that operate high schools are getting. This is not a competitive grant. This is part of the labyrinth that is AB 130. So the legislation that was passed over the summer in order to help districts deal with, the outfall from COVID, among other things. So this was buried in AB 130. We are going to hear it tonight, and I'll share some information. And then if it pleases the board, we would put this on the consent agenda in the next month. So this is just discussion tonight, informational. And then we would ask for approval next month. We're going to go through the slides. I'll go fairly quickly, but I think it's worth saying over and over again that we should be very proud. Districts are struggling now more than ever. But last year, HHS became the top school in the county in terms of A-to-G completion. So 71% of our seniors last year, woo, met the requirements to make an application to a four-year university right out of high school. That is a big accomplishment. Really, really awesome. So a lot of it has to do with the policies that the trustees have put into place. Trustee Del Rey and I talked about that, changing our graduation requirements now well over 5 years ago, and making changes and support along the way. So we'll see some of that in the slides, just, for the public and to remind ourselves. So we've got the slide up here now. What are the A-to-G requirements? And remember, this is the courses that students have to take, 15 courses, in order to be eligible to apply to a four-year university in the state of California. It's the UC-CSU system. Right out of high school. So this actually came about, my former boss at UC Berkeley was a part of making this happen. So there was a lot of confusion by families about well, what do you have to take? What do you have to do to get into a four-year university? So the A-to-G is a way for the UC and CSU to try to be transparent about if you take these courses, your application will get a good thorough read. As we know, things have changed a lot, right? SAT and ACT are now dead, basically, when it comes to college applications. So the coursework and your grades are even more important than ever, because the standardized tests that students used to have to take are pretty much gone, at least in the state of California. So this is the list of courses. I'm not going to go through this. I made a little joke there, a lot of details as to what courses are A-to-G eligible. Talk to your counselor. Our counselors are out there now visiting with all of our students, and Principal Amy Jones-Kerr are doing the parent evening Zooms to help families get some acclimated to what all this is, because it is a little complicated. You say 15 courses, but exactly what qualifies and when do you have to take it? I think something that's important to note is that it's not just taking the courses. Students have to earn a C or better. So, the example I always give, if you got a C- in second semester, 9th grade English, and you're now, at the beginning of your senior year and you're going to fill out your college application, you may be ineligible for application. So there are, some really important things. It's not only the classes, but it's the grade that you get. And so we monitor this every year. Our students get a report from the transcript evaluation service that we partner with, that shows them exactly where they're at, what courses they've taken, what's qualifying, where they're not qualifying. So we pay a whole lot of attention to this in Healdsburg, and that's part of the reason we're at the highest as far as all public schools in Sonoma County. So we can go to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit about the grant. This is a standard slide. This came from a county office. I stole it from them. So the purpose of the grant, what the legislature wanted us to do, is increase the number of California high school students, particularly unduplicated. And unduplicated, remember, is our English learners. students who are low income or socioeconomically disadvantaged, and or foster youth. So the reason they say unduplicated is that a student may be both an English learner and socioeconomically disadvantaged. So that the student doesn't count twice. They're not duplicated in the count, if that makes sense. So that's what unduplicated means. We have 4 years to spend this money, so we can spend it as early as right now through the 25-26 school year. I think it's important for the board to understand we have to supplement, not supplant. So we have to do new and different or more. We can't say, well, we have 11th grade seminar, and that comes at quite an expense to the district, offering that class 7-period day. We can't use this money to pay for things that we've already done unless it's more of that, right? So we need to go above and beyond to supplement, not supplant. So we're doing this tonight. We're going to present, and then hopefully next meeting you guys will approve. We can go to the next slide. Again, this is just kind of boilerplate. There are no county office or CDE review approval requirements. So I don't have to send this off to county office or CDE for review. We got apportionments literally in the nick of time. I'm like, Debbie, do you have it yet? Do you have it yet? Because I was making these slide deck, trying to get it in by Wednesday. I think we got apportionment on Tuesday of last week, which means we found out Tuesday of last week what we think we're going to get. So we'll do some reporting on this and on how we're measuring the impact. And, you know, obviously there's the detailed report once it's all over and once the money is spent that goes to the CDE. Next slide. So this is how we got where we're at in terms of 71% and the highest in the county meeting A to G requirements. Laundry list of things, 2 full slides of actions and services that we've had in place for a number of years. So we offer free after-school tutoring, both in person and had been doing it virtual. The virtual's kind of dropped off. Kids aren't going to virtual that much at night anymore. So kind of ebbing and flowing with when and where kids will show up for free tutoring. A big reason, at least I think, as your CNI director, that we're able to do this is that we have a 7-period course schedule or 7-period day. It's really hard to jam in all those classes that kids need in a 6-period day. So you'll see schools that have 7 and a few that have 8-period days in our county. Without that, this is a really challenging bar to meet. You guys recently approved the revised, what was freshman seminar, now freshman compass, and ethnic studies course. We know from you know, the research and you know, the work that we've done with Acosta Educational Partnership that students who take an ethnic studies course fare far better in their post-secondary pursuits, whether, you know, that be graduating from high school or hopefully, you know, going to college. We used to offer free on-campus visits to colleges each year for all of our students, and we intend to do that again. So bringing all of our 9th, 10th, 11th graders on a school bus out to 2 universities, one public, one private. Dr. Lori Rhodes started this. Counselor Kelly Mace has been the amazing person to make it happen. You know, right now we can't do this, but we intend to do it again when it's safe and allowable. The Full Service College and Career Center, right? We have an amazing College and Career Center, fully staffed, Shelley Anderson and our counselors. The 11th grade academic internship, Principal Jones Kerr, Superintendent Vanden Heuvel, and our work-based learning coordinator, Shelley Anderson, and I went and visited our students out there last Friday and got to see them in action with their mentors and visit some of the host sites, some of the mentor sites. And we will have a presentation with students on that in April. We're going to bring the kids in April because they will have done their presentation. So we have open enrollment in a large number and wide variety of advanced placement courses. For how small of a high school we are, that we serve, you know, 540 kids, that you can take AP Chem, you can take AP Physics, you can take AP Bio, you can take AP Calc. I have a friend who's a principal down at Santa Cruz Harbor High, serves 1,200 kids. They don't have nearly the number of AP classes that we offer. So the access is there for our kids to take the AP courses. And I mentioned earlier, we partner with the Transcript Evaluation Service. We send off our student transcript records, and they do kind of a verification check that the students get. It's printed in both English and Spanish, and the counselors use that as part of helping students understand where they're at in the courses they need to take. Next slide. Feel free to stop me too if I say something you don't understand, but I'm trying to go quick. That we have 2 full-time counselors for 540 students. I know that seems crazy that we're celebrating it, but the reality is that in many other high schools, there would be 1. Generally, the standard operating procedure is about 1 counselor to 400 to 500 students in the state of California. That is the norm. That we have 2 full-time counselors, one who's bilingual and one that tries really darn hard to speak Spanish and use it where she can. Our AVID program for 7th through 12th graders, helping students who are usually going to be the first in their family to attend college. And so helping them through the labyrinth of figuring out courses and how do you study, how do you ask for help, how do you fill out college applications, and helping them just through that entire process from 7th through 12th grade. Academic course plans. We have Naviance software. I'm going to go a little faster here. We have the Point 2, Ben Gunter serving again as our sole advisor, working with our LTELs and RFEP students. And I'll say it's my mindset, and I think the vast majority of our staff and certainly our principal that no matter your language status, we are getting you ready to make an application to a 4-year university. And that, you know, if you arrive to us, we've got a gentleman right now who is a junior and is just learning English. But, you know, making sure that even all students see themselves as college going and are taking the coursework in order to apply to a 4-year university. That includes both documented and undocumented students as well. And that we want to make sure that all kids know that they can go to college. We now have 2 full-time bilingual parent outreach education coordinators. So a full-time, yes, amazing. Full-time at the junior high and full-time at the high school. You guys have heard me say this and sing the praises of Alma and Espy. We now have Maria Cardell, full-time at the junior high, you know, answering those questions, helping to make sure that, you know, as students choose their courses. For example, right now, we've got another session, PK is happening right now, the Parent Institute for our junior high parents. And there were a couple of parents in the front office talking to Maria about the session tonight. So, and really valuable partnerships with 10,000 Degrees, Corazon Healdsburg's first gen program. And I mentioned PK. So next slide. So here's the data. You can see this is trending the way we want it to trend. So we've got 5 years of data there. On the far right is the class of 2021. So those are the students that just graduated. And you can see that 71% there is overall. So that's the kind of lighter red color. The darker red is our white students. So if you look at the white students as a subgroup, 3 percentage points higher there than the overall. Latinos, they're at 64%. So we do have a gap there, right? We have a gap between overall and a gap between white and Latino students. And it's something that we're paying attention to and working on. But I think, you know, the big splash on this is that our county is only at 33%. And you know, while we want to pat ourselves on the back, there's certainly, like I put in the board documents, work to do as a county, but I think we're headed in the right place in Healdsburg. Next slide. So I want to break it down a little bit more, just kind of showing year by year that, yeah, the county has actually taken a fall in the last year, mostly related due to COVID. And I want to say a shout out to our counselors. A big reason that, you know, we didn't see so much of a fall is that our counselors really helped kids understand how to make sure they were going to remain eligible for A to G. And a lot of it, in complete honesty, has to do with the pass, no pass. So AB 130 allowed students to elect to take a passing grade versus taking a D. So, you know, our counselors called every student in and said, listen, you got a D last semester. let's talk about what happened. You are allowed to take a pass, and that would make you eligible for A to G. And that's true, you know, across the county. It wasn't just something that Healdsburg got to do. It was something that any school, but props for making sure that our counselors chased down the students and made sure they were aware of that, and that their families were aware of that as well. Next slide. So this is a comparison between our overall student population and our Latino subgroup. You can see there that when we look at county, we again have something to be proud of, right? Would I like that number to be higher, that 64%, to be up in the 70% like it is for white and overall? Absolutely. But when you look at that opportunity gap, you look at that disparity between where we're at for our Latino students who live in Healdsburg and overall as a county, I think that's something for us to celebrate. So here we're looking at comparisons from other schools. So Healdsburg is in the dark red there over 5 years. Our most similar school in the county is Sonoma Valley. Sonoma Valley has a similar demographic to us. They put in an A to G for all policy for high school graduation many years before Healdsburg High did. We actually kind of learned from them. We went and visited. I think Donna, you were, or Trustee Del Rey, you were part of that in, you know, I don't know what you would call it, not investigation, but learning from others, learning from our nearby folks, so that we've surpassed Sonoma Valley, who put this as far as policy change many years before us. I think that has to do with the hard work. It's one thing to change policy. It's then the next to change practice and leverage that policy into change. We include Annalee. Annalee's somewhat similar to us, again, in terms of demographic size. And then we chose Santa Rosa City School that gets a lot of notoriety for being an academic high school, for being, you know, one of the more academic or college-bound high schools in our county. And you can see they're down there at 38%. So next slide. So I think demographics are important to look at, right? What percentage of students are socioeconomically disadvantaged at the high school level? So this isn't at the district level. This is, you know, we're talking about high schoolers. So we're looking, there are 51% of our high schoolers are socioeconomically disadvantaged and 55% are Latino. When you compare that to Maria Carrillo, that 22% of their students are socioeconomically disadvantaged and only 26% are Latino, and they have less than half of their kids eligible to apply to a four-year university. I think that's something worth paying attention to. And I want to slam Carrillo, but I think it's part of just celebrating our success. Next slide. So you can see here, this is kind of the rundown, the Sonoma County high schools above 100 students that have their A to G completion. So this is publicly available data. You can see some question marks there. This last year, apparently Santa Rosa City had some problems in their data reporting. So I know that's not correct. I know that Elsie Allen and Santa Rosa High are above 1%. It's just, this is what's publicly available to us at this point without literally calling them up and trying to figure it out. So when you go on Data Quest, this is what you find. But you can see we surpassed the one public school that was riding just above us, is that's the Roseland Charter Schools, Roseland University Prep. And so we're glad to have Principal Jones Kerr join our team, and happy that we surpassed Roseland this past year. Next slide. All right, so what are we going to do with $150,000 that we get to spend over the next 4 years, right? It is a nice chunk of change. I don't want to minimize $150,000, but that goes quick to be spent over 4 years. You know, it's a little over, it's $37,500 if you equal it out. So right now we're using it and can use it to help support the Learning Center courses. So we have 2 extra courses where students are doing credit recovery through our online courseware. And so that's the most efficient way generally for us to get kids where they got a D or an F and they want to, you know, if they got an F, they need to get the course in order to graduate. But if they got a D and they want to improve in order to meet that C obligation for A to G requirements. We have additional sections in math, science, Spanish this year. We've got a lot of teachers teaching 1.2, right? They're teaching 6 out of 7 classes in a day. And so we may, we're doing that this year, and we may need to do that a little bit next year. We've always provided, or not always, the state allows some amount of fee waivers, and we want to make sure that any student that wants to take an advanced placement exam and earn that college credit while they're in high school, if they're low income, would be able to apply for a fee waiver. So we want to keep that as the, more kids are taking advanced placement courses and tests. So in the packet, you've got the actual written plan. So there's a 2-page document there that I have. You can go back on, or yeah, turn the slides off. So the actual A to G improvement grant plan that we would submit to the CDE, not necessarily for their approval, but just proving that we had a plan, that's in that document there. And then I included the transcript evaluation service report that we get, which I and Superintendent Vanden Heuvel, principals, counselors sit with every year to kind of figure out how we're doing and where we're falling down. And I'll say that we're not at 100%, not at a lack of access, right? Our kids have access to the courses. If they want the courses, they have enough generally room in their schedule. I shouldn't say generally, they have room in their schedule in a 7-period day. We offer the courses. What hinders that percentage going up is grades, is earning a C- or below. And so that is what we're paying attention to, is equitable grading practices, making sure that students are aware of that, right? That they understand if they earned a C-, that they need to change that. So it's not so much about access to courses and us enrolling them, but it's about the grades that they earn. So that's part of the work that we do through freshman seminar, through 11th grade seminar. Our counselors, well-staffed counseling team, bilingual parent outreach coordinators and whatnot. I'm going to stop talking and open it up to any questions or comments.
I'll start. I want to say that as a board member, this is the kind of results you dream of when you make a policy change, right? That you want to do these things that make big differences. And honestly, I'm not saying it was like a no-brainer, but it wasn't a hard thing to change. The policy was actually, pretty straightforward. Mindset, as you mentioned, was probably a bigger challenge, that, we need to be looking at every student as college able. And it's really, I think those numbers really reflect that is happening, and which is fantastic to see. I also really think it's important to point out that there's still a large majority of kids that not majority, but a large percentage of kids that don't go on to 2- or 4-year college out of high school. I think the recent statistics I saw was like 60% across the country roll right away in 2- or 4-year. And so, but when we did this, when we changed the graduation requirements to, to align with A to G, or at least minimally require the A to G, part of at least what I was thinking was, you may not think you want to go to college now when you're 18, but boy, you hit 22 and you decide, I'm in a dead-end job, and what are my options? And really, I have a lot more options if I start some classes at the JC, or, kind of get back into school. And if you have to go back in and take fundamental math courses that you should have taken in high school for free and pay for them, and et cetera, it's just such an obstacle, it's just demoralizing, I think, for a lot of young adults. And so, I fully appreciate that college is not for everyone. That's awesome. But to give kids this foundation to make choices, maybe not right away when they're 18, but later in life, and that they have those choices, I think is so powerful. So yeah, we all want to see the numbers continue to increase, but this is, and to close the achievement gap for sure. but this is something to be so proud of. Everybody across this whole district needs to be proud of this because it's really amazing. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to just piggyback on that, Donna, because yes, I'm super excited about this and super proud of this growth. It's amazing. Want to continue to see the growth, but definitely need to celebrate this. It breaks my heart when I see the county percentages, because if we understand the Common Core state standards, they were aligned with what students needed to have in terms of requirements or the performance levels in order to be successful in college. And so the Common Core state standards are the A through G requirements. A through G requirements are grade level standards. And so to not have the grade level standard expectation and a higher success rate towards A through G at the county level is really sad. And it makes me super proud of Hillsburg for really embracing A through G requirements and to see that growth. It's super exciting and definitely lots to be proud of. And thank you, Erin, for all your work and creating systems that help us to have these 7-day classes and or 7-day. I can't even talk tonight. Sorry.
It's hard because the kids don't take, except for 1 day a week, right? Have 7 periods. Yeah.
Yeah, 7-period day. I mean, that's been a game changer. So just all the things that Hillsburg has in place to be able to support this is just awesome, and just super proud of what we're doing and excited to see even more growth.
Any other trustees, comments? I would just add, the three of you have pointed out, it's not just the access, but it's the foundation. Even if I choose not to go to college, I have the smarts, if that's the right word, or the knowledge, that foundation in my life to move forward in wherever I want to go. So it's obviously the access is exceptional, but it's also, I've got the knowledge, or students have the knowledge. And again, kudos to all of our teachers, to you, Director Fender, and to the whole team. I mean, it's great. I do caution, as you pointed out, the pass fail. So 71% is high. I hope it stays there. And let's root for that and see if we can maintain that in this coming year. So thank you. And thank you, Erin, thank you. And moving on to
Actually, Mike, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
I got ahead of myself, I guess, with the COVID update, and it's actually an action item.
Oh,
and we did not vote.
My bad, not your bad.
If
There's action on my agenda.
If we could do that, that would be great.
So moving back to 10.1A, regarding Hillsburg Unified School District revised COVID-19 prevention program, do I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Delray, second by Trustee McAllister. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
No,
you.
thank you. Thank you. I'll pay attention to what the right hand of my agenda says. Okay, moving on to a discussion item. 10.1C, the high school revised course outline proposals. Principal Amy Jones-Kerr, please.
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just going to open up really quick, Erin. Good evening, Board of Trustees. It's an absolute pleasure here. Beyond proud to be at Hillsburg and looking at this data. I'm just gleaming right now. On the agenda here, we have course descriptions. And oh my goodness, in high school land, all we're doing is talking about course descriptions and course offerings. This is all we're doing every single day. Our counselors are in the classroom going over 4-year academic plans with students and actually helping them build this plan. And I've had a really, really fun time meeting with all the grade level families and going through and talking to them about the courses and what they are and what A through G means and the courses that they need to take. So it's busy times, but it's a really fun as well. So in front of you, here are these course descriptions, and I cannot take the credit for this. Erin has been wonderful and really working with the high school teachers on this. So she's the expert in this area. And so we're kind of tag teaming this, right, Erin?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Tag teaming, and some of this was in the work. Much of this was in the works prior to Principal Jones Kerr joining our team. So like she said, she's doing the work, getting kids ready. So much of this has happened over the last 6 to 9 months. So just quickly, and again, this is a discussion item tonight, and so I talk real briefly about them. These are revised courses. These are revisions, not new courses. We make sure that we get you new courses prior to when kids have to sign up, right? So we took care of the new courses before the new year, and these are revisions that are being brought forward right now. So these are existing courses that we're changing up because context constantly changes. And I apologize, there's some typos. So in the cover sheet, it says the following 4 courses. It's just 3. We just have 3. We didn't miss one. Part of this is just using old sheets and not being careful. So the 3 courses that we have revised are Avid 9 class, where we are adding the ethnic studies component in order to make sure that all students starting next year have an ethnic studies course in 9th grade, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. The advanced culinary course that was formerly called, or this year is called, culinary management, and then the revised English language arts class that not all 9th graders take. So let's dive into the Avid ethnic studies. So we have a very robust Avid program. Students can begin enrolling that in 7th grade. And as I mentioned before, this is a course that supports students' advancement via individual determination. Students are showing promise. They're willing to, work hard, overcome some obstacles that they may have, either financially or otherwise, and are likely going to be the first generation in their family to complete, not just apply, but to complete a 4-year degree. And that's an important part, is that we not only get them there, but we make sure that they persist. So Avid really meets the needs of the students. When we discussed, with the team, with Thomas Worf and John Linker, who's been a longtime Avid 9 teacher, Sharon Pollack, who's been an Avid teacher both in our district and otherwise, and said, what are we going to do here to make sure that all of our kids get ethnic studies? And they're like, oh, it's fine. We can totally embed ethnic studies into Avid 9. Not a problem. Don't sweat it. We have time. It fits well. There may be some of the elements of the freshman compass course that aren't held tightly. And so that's why you're not seeing freshman compass in here so much. And it's always been kids who take Avid 9 don't take freshman seminar. That's always been this, usually one cohort of 20 to 30 students takes either freshman seminar or Avid 9. And even with a 7-period day, that's a lot to ask. So the Avid tutorial is a really important part that will be kind of the anchor of the Avid class, continuing with the Avid tutorial and the development for their college choices and getting them ready, while we interweave the ethnic studies piece. So that's one course outline that you've got in there. The other is advanced culinary. I think it's a class we all wish we could take. I know for me, when I read these course outlines that Derek Corsino, Chef Corsino, puts together for us, I just wish that my high school had nothing like this, right? I was a kid of the 90s and there was no CTE. So this is an update, change name. Kids like advanced things. So advanced culinary arts is a much better sell than culinary management, right? If you're a high schooler, culinary management doesn't sound so fun, but advanced culinary sounds great. So there's a name change, but with that, as you can see in the course outline, really modernizing it. The kids are making kombucha, they're making hot sauce for sale. They're doing restaurant pop-up events. Got some chocolates delivered to me the other day that our students made and then sold as part of the Valentine's Day. So this is really the next level in getting kids ready to go to further post-secondary education, as Chef Corsino has, or right into the biz out of high school. So that's the revision there. English 9, this is a big one. This time last year, we were discussing how best to make sure that we have equitable access for all of our students to all coursework, and that we don't promote exclusionary practices, and that all of our students have the ability to take robust heterogeneous courses through the 9th grade. So we have had a combined 9th grade English course that was voted on in the spring of last year. And this is the revision now of the course that is operating with all of our English 9. And to be honest, we should have taken this course outline to you when we made the choice to not offer advanced standing. The idea of, at this time last year, we were getting ready to open schools. Had I said to our teachers and our retiring principal who didn't have an assistant principal, hey, I need you to revise that course outline, I think I probably would have gotten a swift punch in the face. So while we made the decision last year to end Honors 9, this is reflective of a course that is being operated right now. And honestly, the 2 teachers, Ben Gunter and John Linker, I did bring it up to them last year, and they said, can we get our feet under us and make sure that what we put before the board is what we can actually pull off? So you can see there's some new text in here, a more wide variety of text, both narrative and expository, a better representation of a diverse author group, including, authors of color and also of story, more modern stories and more diverse stories that include more diverse families and characters. So Ben and John put this together. They worked well together to put this in front of us. So that's what we've got with English 9. So we can open it up to any discussion. Like I said, we're not approving these tonight. And if it pleases the board, we'd put it on the consent agenda for next month.
Any questions?
Aaron, and just clarifying question. So we are offering this ethnic studies course alongside with Avid, but we're keeping it with Compass, correct? We're having
so the majority of freshmen will take freshman summit, freshman Compass, and ethnic studies. The students who are in the Avid program would take Avid with ethnic studies embedded. So it's about 20 to 30 students who are part of the Avid program that would take this course. Everybody else takes the course you guys approved earlier in the year.
They do not take Compass, just for clarification.
Avid students, correct, do not take the Compass course. They get a lot of the content, in terms of like self-exploration, but it's done through the Avid program.
Questions, comments? I have 3 quick ones noted on I don't even know what page it is in relation to, but at the 5th page down where you check year-long or semester. This is a year-long class. I'm talking about the Avid ethnic studies course. That's a year-long course. It's hard because I'm looking on the computer.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
and I know Trustee Patmasil, we had another typo embedded in the course in the unit 2, where there's a sentence about during the freshman Compass course in the first semester. So they'll return to the work they do around their personal identity and explore how these topics. So we thank you for finding that typo as well. It's
yeah, that was so. It's all right. But they don't have a freshman Compass, is what.
No, we'll just strike. So we'll strike the words "the freshman Compass course,"
Gotcha.
But they will return to the work they do around personal identity, because they do work around personal identity in Avid. It's just the words "freshman Compass" should not be part of that sentence.
And my last comment is the word Latinx. I may be the only person who has issues. I do have issues with it, but I find it, I guess, unseemly. I know it seems to be the new education word, but folks that I have spoken to of Hispanic descent say, I don't know what a Latinx is. I don't know what an X is. And I said, well, how do you not say Latinos or Latina? And the word that came out was Latine, Latine. I would ask that we look at that explore that, or maybe you can educate me about the origin of Latinx. I understand it's gender neutral, but it's.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, and we've wrestled with it. We've had conversations at all levels, from cabinet to the classroom, and it's challenging. We could talk about Chicano, we could talk about Hispanic. We have asked Curtis Acosta and Carlos Hagedorn for guidance on this, right? They are our ethnic studies experts, advising not only us, but other school districts, and are, widely seen as experts in this. And they have advised us to use Latinx as a gender inclusive term. Things change, right? And you'll see in some of the documents, Latino, Latina is used. In some of the documents, Latinx is used. Some of the reporting that we have to do, it says Hispanic, and some people prefer Chicano, Chicana. I think the point that you're making is that we understand what people want, right? And so there will be people that want to be addressed in different ways. And I think it's challenging when you have to put it on a document. So right now, what we've done is we've asked Carlos and Curtis from Acosta Educational Partnership what we should be putting on our documents, how would they advise us? And they had advised us right now to use the word Latinx, but point well taken. And I think it's not a settled, it's.
And I would seriously ask that you ask one of them to give me a call. I would love to hear their viewpoint. I will share this one personal story, and there's several, but I have a family member who identifies as Chicana. And I said, what about Latinx? And she said, I'm not an X. And it's not about the fact that it's a family member. It's that when I first heard the word Latinx, it was like, I don't get it. Why are we Anglos Xing Latin folks? But I'll stop there. Any other questions, comments regarding this? But thank you for the work on this. I know it's been.
I would love to hear that explanation too, because I don't fully understand the Latinx. So when you do have that conversation, I'd love to be a part of that.
Yeah, and we are trying to schedule another board workshop with Carlos and Curtis, and if we can get that done quickly. If we can't, I'll see them tomorrow. We have an Ethnic Studies Institute happening on campus tomorrow afternoon, so I will get a chance to pass this along in person to them. I also have an email from him between the two of us that I can forward to you, where I posed the question and he responded. So I'll be sure to follow up on it on a couple of different levels.
And I think just to add to that, I think Mike's point, I think the conversation around the X stems from the identity given to Latina or Latin Americans. And I think Mike, if I'm correct, that's where the conversation is stemming from. Like, this was given to us by most likely probably individuals in higher education, but
white folks.
It makes sense to me, just from the conversation that I've had with Mike. It makes sense to me that it's either an E at the end, Latine, right? Because that letter E is from Latin America, or just to simply use Latin American as a term, because to use an X at the end, which is what most universities do use, I will say, as I graduated from Sonoma State and we use Chicanx, Latinx, and that's what we use there. But just to have that conversation with Curtis and Carlos about the origins of the X, where does that stem from? And maybe just even have this conversation with the students too. How do they identify Latina, Latin American? Because we can talk about all of these labels, right? But I think the most inclusive to me is Latin American or Latina. But yes, of course, have this conversation with Curtis and Carlos and see.
Yeah, and I think I just want to reiterate, Trustee Lopez, that it needs to be through conversation, right? That we need to have these conversations with each other and with our kids, and not with our kids, but help our students dialogue about it themselves so they can self-identify and use the terms that they want to be called.
And how beautiful that we're having those conversations, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you. Thanks again for your work and the work that the staff has put into it. Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on to 10.1D, LCAP. And I believe Director Fender, you're up again.
Yeah, so there's a big ugly PowerPoint. We're going to go through it really, really quickly. I promise you I'm not going to read every slide. That slide deck was provided to us as an example from our county office. I went back and forth whether to use this thing or not. And I figured, well, I've got the information and county gave me a slide deck to use, so might as well do it. I think there's some salient points. We're I'll try to pause here and point some things out. Again, this is part of AB 130. So, right, we continue to kind of unravel AB 130. What else is in there? So what else was in there was the requirement to do a mid-year report.
Erin, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry. I did have one person raise their hand, and I just want to make sure that they, if they wanted to make a public comment about the last item. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
So this is from Christine Neighbor, and I'm going to promote, or I'm going to allow her to talk, and then she can let us know.
Thank you.
All right, Christine.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't know how to put myself on video, but I'll keep it very brief. You know, I'm Hispanic. I identify as Hispanic or Latina. But it is true, the term X, it comes from academia, specifically to try and be more inclusive in terms of gender and gender identity, and for potentially trans folks that identify as Hispanic or Latinx. Part of the critique of that term is that in the studies that have been done and the questionnaires that have been given to actual people that identify as Latinx or Hispanic or Chicano or whatever, most of us hate that term, primarily because it's terrible in Spanish, which is why I think that the term Latine is starting to gain some degree of prominence. And the problem with any term, and I would encourage you to have these conversations with the students, is that there is no clear overarching identity for people that have any kind of Latin descent. Even the term Latin America, that is really from the Americas. It doesn't necessarily, you know, encompass people from Spain, for example, that have a Spanish descent. Chicano is really more of a term for people that come from Mexico. So I think that it's great that we're thinking about gender identity and including that. Spanish is an inherently gendered language. You know, chair, silla is feminine, but it's good to be able to use that as a conversation to talk about gender identity. But I think just like with some of the movement that's happened around terms of African American or Black, it's just good to ask people how they want to be identified. And maybe, you know, as much as it is clumsy, include in your written documentation things like, you know, multiple terms, Latina OX, or, you know, Latin American / Hispanic descent. Anyway, that's my public comment. Thank you for noticing that my hand was raised. I really appreciate you having this conversation about these kinds of things. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Where were we?
Back to bureaucracy.
Thank you.
LCAP, mid-year report. So in the slide, in the packet is a slide deck, and then there is also the actual mid-year report. So the mid-year report is in blue and white. That's a chart, the template that was provided to us by the CDE and asked to be turned into them. You are not approving this. This is just informational for board and community. Given that things moved really quickly in LCAP season last year, and there was a lot of changes, and there's been some new money through COVID dollars. The legislature and the CDE decided to require a mid-year report. So this is based on data that we can get at this time. Some of this data we can't really access just yet. It's not updated. And the financials are based on first interim. So all of the financials that you see in there are based on first interim. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide.
Sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
Pretty much went over that. We can go to the next slide. So I mentioned, you'll see in the document, there will be times where the outcome is unknown, right? It's too early to know. We don't have the updated data. Outcome is in progress. And then where we can, we're reporting. We are heading into what I call LCAP season, at least for me, where Superintendent Vanden Heuvel and I will go out and meet with all of the governance councils, the staff and their staff meetings, and in other groups to share where we're at with the LCAP and kind of look forward. So we'll ask for input from trustees for the LCAP in April. So this information, will refresh it again when I bring you kind of where we're at in the update of the LCAP. We can go to the next slide. I mentioned this before. So I think it's worth, we have 3 goals. So our first goal is there. I'll give us a moment to read it. Our presentation from earlier in the night about A to G, I think highlights some of that, the traditional predictors of success, meaning being low income, being an immigrant, maybe not having parents who achieve some kind of educational attainment. So we pay attention to that through CASP and STAR. You can see we've seen some nice improvement. In February and March of 2021, only 31% of of our second graders were meeting or exceeding standard on the STAR. And the most recent administration that we just did, we were up at 58.5%. So we're getting back to about where we were 2 years ago. We're seeing some nice growth in our data, and our kids getting back, accelerating to numbers that we were seeing pre-pandemic, which is good to see. Next slide. Lots of data here. Like I said, this is some of the stuff. I'm not sure whether we should spend a whole lot of time over it, but you've got it there. Again, you're not approving this. This is for information. You can chew on this and ask any questions either tonight or over the next couple of months, and as we head through to approving the revised LCAP in June. Next slide. More metrics. I think, it's worth saying that there are some districts that struggle with this, providing instructional materials, Williams complaints, having highly qualified teachers, misassignment. Since I've been a part of Healdsburg, this has not been a trouble for us. Some of this has to do with being a basic aid school district, in all honesty. Others of it have to do with hardworking folks like Franny to make sure that all of our teachers are highly qualified and nobody's misassigned. So next slide. So these are our actions in goal 1. We have, oh my goodness, my count, 7 different actions. And so you can see that budgeted expenditure is pulled right from the LCAP. And then as of first interim, where we're at in the spending. And then we were asked by the CDE whether we're on track or not. And so you can see that reflected there. Next slide. So this is the second slide of our actions that align to the first goal, 1.5, 1.6, and 1.7. the budgeted expenditures that are in the LCAP, and where we were as a first interim. Next slide. LCAP goal 2, I'll give you a minute to read it. Next slide. So this is the data that we're tracking in order to see how we're doing on LCAP goal 2. So you can see everything from a broad course of study. We talked about earlier that students have access to A to G coursework, CTE classes, arts classes. You know, I go to these meetings where they're talking about how their students don't have any access to any art or music, that we have robust programs in really all aspects of academic coursework. Go to the next slide. What did I want to point out here? College and career readiness, I think that's worth talking about. And the first one is measured by the CDE. This is a very complicated piece of data, and we'll get into this when we talk about indicators through the LCAP presentations that'll come later in the spring. You know, I would argue that we're higher than that, but some of this is reliant on SBAC scores or CASP scores. And we know that 11th graders don't really like taking that test. And so when you tie, did they take advanced CTE and they did well on a standardized assessment, that means nothing to their grades or college application. And because of that, now they're not college and career ready. So I've, taken a little issue with the way the CDE measures college and career readiness. And I think it's not completely fairly reflected in the data, but it is what it is. Next slide. So we can see these are actions that align to goal 2. We have goal 2, just 5 actions there. They're all listed on a single slide. So you can take a second to look at 1.1 through 1.5. Next slide. LCAP goal 3. Like I said, we have 3 goals. So this is our 3rd goal. Next slide. Metrics that align with this goal. Some of them are, told to us by the CDE. We need to track family engagement. Of course, we would. There are other things that we get to choose. The Youth Truth Survey, for example. We use the Youth Truth Survey quite robustly to measure goal 3 and kind of do check-ins on where we're at with goal 3. Next slide. More of the data that's tracked in alignment with goal 3. So these are the actions. We have actually 5 actions. They don't all fit in one slide. So there's 3.1 through 3.4. And we have a 5th action on the last slide. Give you a second to look at those. Next slide. This was an important piece that we needed to make sure that we talked about tonight. This is the impact to the budget overview for parents. This is a little bit of a tough one for basic aid school districts because we're community funded. Our property taxes come directly to us. So the concept of LCFF funds is a little different because we get money directly from the state. It's not everything according to the LCFF calculator. And I think important thing is this supplemental and concentration grant. So districts that serve a high percentage of low income English learners or foster youth and are not basic aid get an additional lump of money, and that's called the supplemental or concentration grant. We don't get that extra supplemental grant fund. It's not extra money to Healdsburg, but we do have to prove that we're spending a certain percentage on our low income students, our English learners. So we get told by the state what percentage of that our general fund has to be used to support low-income English learners. So when you passed the LCAP back in June, that number was told to us to be 1.339, so 1.339 million. Because most other districts got additional supplemental and concentration, it looks like we did on paper. So it looks like on paper that we got more money. We didn't get more money. We just had to prove that we were using more of our money to support low-income English learners and foster youth, and that rose to 1.8. We are super safe on this, and I'll talk about this in the next slide. Actually, why don't you go ahead and go to the next one, prompt 2, Karen. So you can see here, I've written this out for you, what I've been discussing. In the 21-22 LCAP there, we budgeted nearly 2.2 million to increase or improve services for unduplicated students. So it was well over the required, we thought, initial amount in June, 1.339, now up to 1.8. So we always make sure we're well above that required threshold from the CDE. Thanks to Debbie. So they are changing some of the language. I think this is important to understand. It used to always be called stakeholders. So how are you engaging your stakeholders? CDE and others now want us to be using the term educational partners. So rather than using the word stakeholder, we're going to be starting to the term educational partner engagement. So we do this through existing meetings. We try not to have extra meetings. So ELAC and DLAC, governance council, staff meeting, district curriculum council, executive council of HADA, the site leadership teams. We have a lot of meetings as we roll through the year. And when relevant, we discuss these topics at those meetings rather than having separate different meetings, and try to make it part of the work, not a separate thing that we talk about just because we have to. So next slide. So that's true of our ESSER 3 funds. You guys earlier in this year presented in the fall the ESSER 3 expenditure plan. Next slide. So, as Diane said earlier in the meeting, despite the challenges of COVID-19, that we're committed to, making sure that what we've done in the LCAP, and you can see the data is looking better. We'll do a deeper dive. The finances that we thought we were going to spend are moving through the pipelines. You might see in the press, people are talking about districts aren't even using their COVID funds, or kids aren't getting any better. They're not helping. I feel like, as a district director, that we're moving in the right direction, and just want to acknowledge, that this is a team effort. This is about employees, parents, and the resilience of our students to get through this. And I know we've said this before, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, right? But I think we're getting a nice, good peek at it, and we'll continue to accelerate our students and work with our families and employees to take the knocks as they come, right? But I think we're headed in the right direction as a district. So. You've got the formal mid-year report in there. It's the blue and white document. Looks like you can't even see it there in the report. Any questions?
Kind of quickly, the first item in the report talks about the comparative data being like STAR 2021 was taken in November 2021. Is that true? Is that the mid-year progress was from November, or is it more recent?
Yeah, thank you. So it's a 3-month window. So what we do is we test, we administer the STAR in different, we do it K-8 and we're now adding the high school, right? So November would have been the earliest, and then like junior high just got it done, right? So
okay.
Kind of rolls
so it really
through.
is mid-year.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
right.
Good. Just making sure that's not like there's been more recent STAR tests that aren't represented here, or that there's going to be more tests coming or anything like that.
There'll be another round towards the end of the year, right? So we do our beginning of year, mid-year, end of year. So what you're seeing there is mid-year. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So we hope to see even more improvement, and that's ideally what I'll include when I ask you all for input on the LCAP in the late spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Erin.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Erin. E, supplement to the annual update of the 21-22 LCAP. Aaron, do you have a minute?
Well, I think Trustee Roma Flores will get my joke on this. This is the update to the update. No joke. That's literally what it's being called.
I just did mine last night.
Awesome. Yeah, so this is what we live for in CNI, right? This is why we get into the job, to do these kind of reports. I don't know. I gotta make jokes or I'm crying about it. So this is the supplement to the annual update, literally the update to the update. I don't want to belabor this. There are no slides. There is a written report in the packet. This will be shipped off to people that may or may not read it. As I said earlier, I feel like we're headed in the right direction as a district director. I think we've done our due diligence as we can to engage stakeholders, and we'll continue to try to do better at that now that things are opening up, right? And we can get more in-person meetings happening. You know, I will say, trying to do an LCAP at this time last year and getting engagement was hard. And so, you know, we'll make a bigger push. The LCAP is a 3-year document. So we made major revisions through the spring of last year. It's basically a new document. So, you know, we don't want to rewrite the thing, right? And we don't want to start with an empty template like we did this time last year. But you know, I'm not anticipating any major revisions. I don't think we're going to be changing any of our goals, but certainly we might be looking at expenditures, looking at actions and services, really using the data that we have available to us to check in and making sure that we're headed in the right direction. And I think that that'll be a more robust process in this spring than it would be when we're in year 2 of an LCAP cycle otherwise. So happy to take any questions if you had a chance to read the document, the update to the update.
Thank you, Director Fender, for the update.
My pleasure.
Sorry, I couldn't miss it. I'm asked to report that it's 24-19 hounds at the halftime via Superintendent Van Uvel. That said, let's move on to reports. Remind folks that time is limited to 10 minutes per report. Half, I understand we do not have half. Is that correct? Okay. HUD report. Do we have a HUD representative? No.
Hi, this is Jessica Perry. Robin's actually at her daughter's game right now and her phone died. I'm the head of secretary. If you guys don't mind, I can do a quick report if that's okay.
Please do.
Okay, just give me 1 second to pull up her notes. Okay, so thank you for unmuting me, first of all, and I'm glad I get to do a report. I've never done this before, so bear with me. Robin would like me to report that the grading period ends this week for secondary. She has said this before, but she's so proud of HUSD teachers. The teachers are constantly adapting to the needs of their students. Teachers have been subbing for other teachers or taking students into their classroom because subs are not available. Teachers are doing what needs to be done to make it work. The next item is the negotiations have started. The next date is February 28th and March 14th, and the last one, April 5th. Teachers would like to focus on a few things at a time. Adding in new things makes them feel like they can't do a good job at those fewer things. So they'd like to focus on fewer items, get really good at that, instead of implementing a lot of new programs at once. And in regards to the district's recent proposal for negotiations, the teachers felt a little bit sad about what the initial proposals were from the district, and they felt like they were offering less than what the teachers already have now. And it was a little bit heartbreaking. Moving on, teachers have questions about paraprofessional time at some of the sites. And HUD is currently working with the principal on this. Just as a reminder, HUD meets with the district once a month to discuss concerns, ask questions, and learn about the board packet. The minutes from this leadership meeting will be emailed to you shortly to keep you updated on what the teachers are talking about with the district. We are a small school district. Teachers are very much interested in communication, collaboration with all stakeholders on critical decisions in a timely manner. And lastly, thank you for all of your help and support. Thank you for supporting our requests for needed materials. Thank you for reaching out to ask questions, and thank you for your leadership. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact Robin Doherty or myself, since I gave the report. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Jessica. Appreciate it. CSEA report. We have a CSEA rep.
No, nobody's
Okay.
on for that.
Once, going twice, and student trustee did her report earlier. Again, thank you, Trustee Peterson. Board of Trustees, reports from any of our trustees.
Can report that I went to Healdsburg High today. I visited the Ethnic Studies Club. That was awesome. We invited students, and I want to open this up to the public, but we invited students to the conversation with Luis Valdez next week. Luis Valdez, who, for those who don't know, started El Teatro Campesino. He directed and wrote Susu Riots, La Bamba. And so he's coming to Healdsburg next week. So we spoke to students about Luis Valdez, invited them over to this event. We're providing free tickets for them and their families, and any student interested too. So if you know anyone who's interested. And I also wanted to share that this is related but non-related. Corazon Healdsburg just opened an after-school program for high school students, and it's open Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So any students, encourage students, parents who are watching right now, encourage students to participate. This is a safe space for students to do what they like, right? So if they need help with tutoring, we can offer tutoring services, any other services that they're interested in participating in, but we also we just want to provide a safe space for them to hang out and get to know other students too. So it's open Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at the Healdsburg Community Center for high school students. This is the first time ever that we have an after school program for high school students. So.
Great, thank you.
I will jump in that I attended my first curriculum council meeting ever in my 9 years on the board. I'm just not a committee I've been on. Thoroughly enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed listening to teachers from every campus talking about what they're doing. Just amazing. It was so upbeat and wonderful. Even this was 2 weeks ago when, things are getting a little better now. It's been a little crazy for these teachers. So it was really fantastic. And I look forward to more of those. I was able to pop into culinary yesterday to pick up the chocolates that I bought for Valentine's. Ooh. And saw the it's now called advanced culinary, the culinary management group, hand making aioli. It was fun, and they were going to be frying up some French fries. Wish I could have stayed, but it was great. It was really, again, it's just so great to see students in place doing work. Yes, masks on, being safe, but just doing school. It was really, really nice to see that. So,
thank you. I'm envious on both accounts.
And then one last thing, Mike, I just remembered. I think it was either last week or the week before I attended the ELAC meeting. Super informative meeting. I do wish, however, that we had more parents. I totally understand parents are busy. They have lives outside of their 8-hour workday. But Shelley Anderson gave such an informative presentation to parents about scholarships, and we had such a low turnout of parents, and we had Francisco, who's a bilingual vice principal, giving presentations, and I was just, as I was sitting there listening to them and listening to all this information, I was hoping and wondering if parents would attend. So hopefully now that restrictions are easing and we can have more in-person meetings and conversations with our teachers and administrators, we can hopefully see the level of engagement from parents go up. But yeah.
And I see Principal Amy smiling, so good. Okay, yeah, I agree with you. It'd be great if we had more parent participation. Any
And
other
I want to give a
comments?
shout out to, I'm not sure who to give credit to, honestly. I know that they worked with Raíces Collective and the murals at the high school that were just painted. They're beautiful. And so I don't know if anybody could share a little bit about that. Erin or Amy, if you can share who partnered.
Amy can, yeah.
Yeah, I can share. And I just want to, Crystal, thank you so much for those lovely words about, what people are sharing with families. I think a great resource, maybe we need to start filming these things and posting them so that people can read them at their leisure, because parents are so busy, and then also the past 2 weeks, I mean, we've had all these parent informational evenings for course selections. And so I think if we start doing that would maybe help. So that's an idea. We do them in both languages. So the more we can do to educate, I'm all in. The murals, they're beautiful and amazing. Our students in our clubs have been designing these, the Mayo Club as well as the GSA Club. Those are the ones that are up there. And then the new Greyhound one that is up, that was, I think, done last year, and it's finally getting up. So they spent a weekend. We had artists out here. They had music and they were dancing, and it was just so fun to see our students that aren't normally involved in a lot of activities or tend to be very shy, getting their artwork on the wall. It's just, I cannot be more proud. I mean, I think it looks absolutely beautiful. It adds a little colorful flair to our little area. So you have to come check it out.
That's great. Thank you so much, Amy.
And I think
Thank you for that
Amy,
report,
you guys are
Trustee
gonna,
Doma Flores.
What's that?
I said, thank you for that report.
and Principal Jones-Kerr, I think you and some students are gonna present on the murals and the clubs in an upcoming meeting, right?
Yes, we are just so proud. And the things that our students are doing, they blow me away. They're so smart. And so we really wanted to have a bunch of our clubs, have a little PowerPoint, who the advisors are, what their projects are, what they're working on, and maybe have a few students talk about what they're doing so you can see. Because they're not only in the classroom learning, but they're doing these clubs during lunch and after school, and we just keep them busy doing safe things. So it's awesome.
Great.
That's
You're
great.
welcome, President Patmason.
Any other comments or reports from the Board of Trustees? All right, I know we'd like to keep going, but we're going to take a 5-minute break. It's 7:49, so that means we'll be back at 7:54. Let's just round it up to 7:55. Let's try and return. Thank you. Okay, let's come back together. Just got an update, 39:36 at the end of 3 quarters. Our team is ahead. Do that little thing. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Going to item 10.2, 10.2A, California. Oh, I'm wrong. 10.1F, Hillsburg Unified School District Spanish Language Program. Director Fender.
All right, I'm going to try to make my part very quick because we have some special guests here with us tonight who hopefully have their babies sleeping now. We've got a number of our Spanish teachers, Lindsay Rose from FMC, Cynthia Guig here prepared to present, and I believe Angelica Gallo from HES is with us as well. So they are the main event. I just want to take a minute to celebrate them, the hard work they do. improving the world language program has been an important part of our work for 6 years. And we've got more staff, we've got better curriculum, we've got more alignment, and really it's been on the hard work of the teachers and them collaborating and asking good questions and going to conferences and getting training. Action 2.4 of our LCAP is to promote bilingualism for all students. So we want to promote bilingualism, and the best way to do that is to start them young. We're one of the only districts that I am aware of, certainly in our county, and that I know of, that has a year-round Spanish enrichment program outside of a bilingual dual immersion program. So that our kids get Spanish from the early years through elementary with highly qualified staff that are a part of our team. They're not just contractors coming in, but they're paid, credentialed teachers is an important piece. So they can collaborate regularly with other staff. We're also one of the only public school districts that requires 2 years of a language other than English. We talked earlier about the A to G stuff. And again, we're one of the only districts that requires 2 years to graduate from high school. In a lot of other places, it's CTE or VPA or a language other than English. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. I'm going to try to make this really quickly. So this just documenting the efforts to support bilingualism for all students. This isn't something that just happens overnight. A multi-year effort. I think, one of the more recent things there is last year when we merged the schools, right? So last year during full distance learning is when we merged 2 elementary schools. So let's just remember that for a minute, that all of our kids and teachers came together for the first time during full distance learning. We were able to hire Lindsay Rose, who's here with us tonight, as a full-time Spanish enrichment teacher. So she just jumped into our district teaching online. We've worked with the California World Language Project. These ladies articulate on a regular basis. If anything, I need to tell them to slow down and take care of themselves a little bit. And we'll have increased articulation to come over the summer, particularly at the elementary. Next slide. So mentioned earlier the change in high school graduation requirements, and that just kind of walks you through the changes that we've made year over year in terms of the policy decision in order to promote bilingualism, at least at the high school level for all students. Next slide. So an important part of this and a big honor for students is earning the state seal of biliteracy. This is, it's a high level of proficiency in speaking, reading, and writing in another language. We can go to the next slide. We celebrate this every year. You can see our numbers are improving year on year. Little dip there in 2020. Well, not little, a significant dip in 2020. And that had a lot to do with students not taking the AP exam and or the CASP not being eligible to them. So it was a compounding effect of the 2020 graduation pandemic class. So back on track last year, and I think we're going to see that number nice and high in years to come as well. And that represents a good chunk of students, right? 28 students out of 117. That's a nice percentage, and I think we're going to see that to continue to grow. Because I think that all aspects of our program, from the high school to elementary and on through, are just getting better and better every year. So next slide, and I think that's for the teachers. So I'm going to turn this over to the experts in the room, Cynthia Guig from the junior high, and Lindsay Rose, and Angelica. You can open your mic if you so desire. It's all yours, ladies.
Great, thank you so much, Erin, for that wonderful introduction. And we are both happy to be here. Can people hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you great.
Okay, great. I think we're ready for the next slide. My name is Lindsay Rose. I teach Spanish at Fitch Mountain Elementary.
Hi there. Sorry. I'm Cynthia Guig. I am the Spanish teacher at the junior high, and I am representing the secondary team, Andrea Ruiz and Carolina Diaz, who are the Spanish teachers at the high school.
Next slide, please.
All right, so this is our little overview of our presentation for tonight. The first circle you see there says shifting world language standards. We put that first because pretty much everything else that we've done and the other circles you see are under the umbrella of this shifting world language standards, because the way that we approach teaching now has really very much shifted from the old ways. And we really want to make it clear to the board and the public what we're doing and how we are making our program engaging and fitting to the new language standards. Do our next slide.
So I'm going to be discussing these shifting world language standards. I think it's safe to say that they've shifted. They're not shifting, they have shifted. So we can check out the next slide. We're going to start with the three main focuses. In California, there are communication, cultures, and connections. So there are 15 different examples. These three really resonated the most with us, and we felt the need to share them with the board and the public. In the past, foreign language has always been taught with a textbook, and the textbook has been the core of the curriculum. And now we've moved away from that, and we're using authentic materials, rich in language, culture, and content that we will be discussing in more detail in the coming slides. Before, the language was only taught. Now we're using the language as a vehicle to teach content and cultural perspectives. And before, we really focused about grammar, and now the students learn to use the target language, and we try to use the target language almost exclusively, and grammar is taught as a tool for communication. So some examples of curriculum shifts and changes at the elementary level, we really focus on interpersonal communication. And interpersonal communication is really speaking and conversations. So the students are interacting with each other using the target language. We also utilize fun interactive vocabulary games. It's very important to me to do differentiated small group instruction and meet every single student where they are. So if they have a background in Spanish, I want to be able to challenge them appropriately. And if it's their first day, then they've never taken Spanish class before, I need to instruct that student at their level as well. We just implemented novels in 5th grade Spanish. I'm really excited about it, and the students have been enjoying it. And we do utilize Sonrisas and the Viva el Español curriculums supplementary.
Okay, yes, and to add to that, at secondary, we have updated more recently. We originally started this slide as like, what have we done lately? But it would be, I think, beneficial to tell you what we've done overall in the last few years. So as Lindsay mentioned, there was a shift. How many times can we say that tonight? It's a change from the old textbook ways, the old grammar focused ways, into using the content as a vehicle to teach this language more through acquisition than through teaching the yo form, the tú form, the el form, the nosotros form. And in secondary, we bring in content such as clips from Spanish speaking TV shows, art from Picasso and Dali, music from popular artists, novels based around cultural and historical events like Dia de los Muertos, the time spent during Franco's fascist rule of Spain, Castro's reign, escaping Cuba during Castro's reign, athletes and sports. Felipe Alou is a novel used at the high school about a Black athlete living in the Dominican Republic, big focus on the Caribbean. Dances, bachata, cumbia, influences going to Celia Cruz, Buena Vista Social Club, documentaries like Latin Explosion, $1 a Day, which is focused in Guatemala, Magia Salvaje, which is focused on Colombia, podcasts made specifically through this using comprehensible input, which is a way to ensure that students can understand 95% of what's going on, so they can grab onto the word, new vocabulary and new concepts, so their brain can manage that and make sense of it. So it's through all this rich content that we are speaking 90% in the target language, so students will acquire this language versus being taught about it and then speaking it. It's more of a subconscious than conscious learning. So if we look at our slide now, I know I mentioned all those things, but I can't forget to mention and thank Lin-Manuel Miranda for coming into our lives. And we just updated our Familia unit, including Encanto, obviously. And at the high school, In the Heights is brought in, and we really have a really fun time bringing in and finding new authentic resources to keep our program and our classes alive. So thank you. Next slide.
So this is a brief overview of Spanish 4 and AP. The main difference between any other level Spanish and these higher level Spanish courses is that these also focus on the mid to high ACTFL standards. So those are the national standards. They include 5 Cs as opposed to the 3 Cs we mentioned earlier for California standards. The additional 2 Cs are comparisons in communities. And so it kind of is robust in that way.
So we thought we'd just share a little levity from all the talking. And these are some photos from our classrooms, which is always fun to see. Though if you haven't been into our classrooms, here's a little view. There's elementary and the junior high there, kids. And I did want to mention too that I believe it was on Erin's slides, it was noted that the junior high has a 1A and a 1B. And that is really meant to kind of bridge the elementary enrichment, fun, wonder, curiosity, and the rigor of an elective at the high school, and to meet them age appropriately, kind of where they're at, and explore. We're able to explore more cultural things. We're able to dive deeper in this 2-year program while these students are figuring out how to be students as 11, 12, 13-year-olds, and learning how to function, their executive functioning, and everything. So anyway, there are a couple pictures of my little sweeties in there too, so which is fun. So in terms of our professional development, the secondary has gotten a lot of support from the district. So thank you. I know we said it already, but we're so thankful for all the support we've gotten in the past to really make our program fun for us and engaging, and helping us feel like we are making a difference and we are creating entertaining, which entertainment is a very valid form of teaching language through stories. That's a huge way. Anyway, we're very grateful for the opportunities the district has given us. The secondary team has taken acquisition boot camp, which was led by Martina Bex, who I mentioned the comprehensible input. She's just an expert at that, and gave us tools to use in the classroom that I are able to use right away, which is the best kind of PD for teachers. Can I use them tomorrow? Perfect. So we've been able to do that. The secondary team also was part of the California Global Education Project, which is through University of San Diego. And it was a year-long program where we met monthly with a group of about 20 teachers throughout California, and are learning had discussions, read books, and had a final kind of inquiry project based on making students globally competent and encouraging global competence in all classrooms. So that was a really special thing that we were able to do as well.
And in the future, oh, I'm sorry, we needed to comment on the goals really quickly. So the elementary team is really interested in attending the training. We've already been discussing it a little bit, and we do feel very much supported that this is a goal that will be easily attained in the near future. We also, as a K-12 team, are interested in attending the ACTFL conference, and we just think that would be amazing and would really contribute to our collaboration and teamwork, K-12. Thank you. So communication and collaboration we were just discussing that. At the elementary level, we're really working on building community in the classroom and as well with our extended community. So the next slide, you'll actually see some pictures from our Dia de los Muertos celebration. That was really fun at HES. There's also been collaboration between HES and FMC in the form of buddies. We've had, it's been a little bit tricky with, the COVID situation and being on Zoom, but we are really looking forward to, as things start to open up, getting the students together, having the fifth graders have, either a first grade or, an lower elementary buddy. And actually next week, so last year on Zoom, it was successful. Maestra Diaz and I did cross grade teaching with the high schoolers and the third graders. And so we are going to be doing that again next week, which will be really exciting. Some next steps are scope and sequence for K-5. So Maestra Aguayo and I will be getting together this summer and working on that and kind of hashing it out. And we're really looking forward to that.
And at secondary, clearly with distance learning, we weren't able to cover as much as we would like to during a typical school year. So we've gotten together time and time again to adjust and pick up in Spanish 2 where we weren't able to, what we weren't able to touch on in Spanish 1, and just having that constant kind of communication, developing, as everyone did, developing resources during distance learning, and kind of reassessing where we're at. I was also out on maternity leave last semester, and unfortunately we weren't able to get to have a teacher take my position. And so we've also been adjusting for that. So we have just constant, we are in communication. And this summer, perhaps, or next year, I'm not sure actually, I don't know the details, but we do have goals to rewrite the Spanish 3 curriculum. As Erin mentioned, the Spanish 1 and 2 have the UC adopted courses. We want to do that, including all those kind of cultural things that I mentioned earlier for Spanish 3 as well.
So here are some photos from our Dia de los Muertos celebration. It was on technically Dia de los Angelitos, which is November 1st. It was raining. I don't know if you remember that we had the day off of school. And so we had this big celebration planned with art projects and sugar skull cookies. And we had been preparing all month long. I did a really fun project, the shoebox altars, with my art class, and every grade K-5 contributed to the altar. Greta helped amazingly, and Alma as well, not to mention Maestra Aguayo. So it was really fun. It was successful. We were afraid, about the turnout just because it was raining and whatnot, but we think a lot of families enjoyed the excuse to get out of the house and come and participate in such a wonderful, memorable event. So we're looking forward to doing something similar, if not bigger, next year. In addition, I may as well mention now that we're going to be working with Corazon Healdsburg and hopefully collaborating with a Dia del Niño celebration that is going to be coming up April 30th. So we're really looking forward. We really loved extending our collaboration and our community with the extended community as well. It's a really special, fun thing.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
Thank you both. Thank you to the whole team. Any questions from the trustees?
I have a question for Cynthia. I know you've been teaching at the secondary level before the shift, during the shift, and now. And do you feel like, I think these ideas and concepts are really exciting for engaging people in the language and the culture versus, oh my God, yo, too.
Absolutely.
This is the Spanish that's in my head from high school, is literally the conjugation of the 2 columns of, verbs, still in my head a million years later. So do you feel like these new concepts are kids are more receptive, that they're really learning more effectively and engaging in the language?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
1,000%. 1,000%. I think when I spoke, I don't know how long, I don't have any concept of time anymore, but when I spoke here last time, I am a grammar nerd. I enjoyed the charts and things, and it took a long time for me to realize that not everyone loved it as much as I did. And, you know, it's an incredible difference. I mean, I just feel it as the teacher having fun. It's changed my entire outlook on teaching, honestly. It's like, as long as I'm having good time, I know that I'm doing the work that needs to be done. I can feel it. Like it's, you know, it's the saying, you know, if you love what you do, it's not work, whatever that saying is. You guys get it. It truly is. It's so much more fun, so much more exciting. And I hear the students and I see their students work. I hear what they're saying, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
That's really great to hear.
Yeah.
Because I know, I mean, a lot of students struggle with language. My daughter really struggled with language.
I remember her.
Yeah.
Not that she struggled. I remember your daughter. Gosh.
Yeah. And I just feel like, I mean, even just for her, you know, this type of approach would have been so much more meaningful to her. And it's just, So it's really good to hear that this is just working. That's the key.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, and I just want to thank the teachers for embracing the change, right? Like that, you know, Cynthia Goig is a phenomenal teacher, right? And learned how to do it in a way. And even though she's a mid-career, I don't know, maybe, it takes a shift in practice, right? And not all of us are ready. And the teachers have really stepped up and they've worked together. And, you know, I made the joke earlier, I need to slow them down sometimes and help them take care of themselves, because they just are constantly collaborating. I was walking class the other day and these two were Zooming during their lunch, right? I was just out there visiting and saying hi. And so, you know, I thank you for embracing the change. And I think we're going to see the difference in our kids' love of language, right? And joy for school, as we've talked about, and it not being just about conjugating verbs. So thank you.
Karen.
Thank you. And it's good to hear the joy in your voices.
Yeah, right.
I like that.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, go ahead, Marceli.
Oh, no, go ahead, Rose. I'm just saying it's such a gift for our children. So it's just super grateful. Thank you.
I just wanted to thank you guys for the presentation and just to sort of understand some of the underpinnings of the changes that you're putting into place and the ideas behind your teaching. And I think it's so exciting the way you collaborate with each other and work together. And I learned a lot from what you talked about. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Glad to hear that.
I also echo all of those sentiments. I'm super excited that we even have Spanish being offered at our school district. Our students are extremely lucky to have that. I sound like a broken record now, but again, I think we need to have a conversation about the students who are not taking Spanish because they're classified as ELD students, and how can we get those students to take Spanish? And that's a broader conversation that we need to have, obviously, as a district, but just like, imagine, like, I'm excited just to hear you all talk about the experiences and like the conversations about culture and the celebrations that you are already having, but imagine how better those would get with students who are native Spanish speakers. And I know we have those students in the classroom already, but even if you had more students in there who are celebrating their own culture and celebrating their own language to be part of this. And so again, like, I sound like a broken record, but how can we get these students to participate in this incredible program that you all developing?
Thank you, Trustee Lopez. Know that it's a point of conversation, and it's a small number of students, but we're working on it. Yeah. So
We need a 7th period day at the elementary.
Yeah, right, exactly. Nice. Now you got an idea.
We will continue. And just the final comment is, somebody once said to me, and I've watched, and it's very true. You don't teach Spanish, you teach you, and our students are fortunate. So I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely, thank you. And now you can turn off the screen and go back into your family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.
Night.
Okay, moving on. 10.2, 10.2A, California School Boards Association Virtual Conference, December 2021. Trustee Del Rey, I'll let you lead this. Did nobody hear me? Am I muted? Can you hear me? You can hear me. Trustee Del Rey, are you there?
I am.
Oh, I noted that you submitted this, so
I did, because we had talked about doing this after we attended the virtual conference,
Right.
and now it's February. And I have to say, I had to go back to my notes and kind of dig that up a little bit, but you know, without going through every PowerPoint or whatever, if there's highlights that we wanted to share or just things that were notable or whatnot, I'm happy to start, and I'll be brief. But I will say the virtual was not great. I don't know. It was everything was recorded from the live session that had happened the week before, and so there really was very little interaction. And anyway, it was so short, and you could only kind of do one thing. Anyway, it was not my favorite, but was able to attend some sessions on farm to table and incorporating nutrition and healthy lunches, et cetera. A couple sessions on equity, ethnic studies, parent engagement, things like that. A really interesting session on I think it was Poway that did updated their mission and vision during the pandemic. Sound familiar? And the process they went through, and I have to say they're a really big district with a lot more resources than we have, and they went as far as kind of talking about their whole rollout, which was interesting to see, and a really nice session on student voice, which is why, like back in January and December when we were doing committees, I really think there's more. We need to grow our the voice of our student trustee, you know, and so I've been trying to kind of meet with Annie here and there. We've met a couple times and talked a little bit. In fact, I really wanted her input on Spanish because she takes Spanish at the high school, and if she'd been at the meeting, she would have definitely commented. But you know, in other ways to have that student trustee, you know, be a little louder voice, I guess, with us, and involved. In fact, she came to the curriculum council meeting, which was fantastic to hear her thoughts on. And you know, and I don't think we've ever even thought about that. And the student trustee can come to these committee meetings and do more things and be a more proactive presence, which I think is great. So anyway, that's kind of the highlights. The only other thing I will say is that with the multiple sessions I went to on equity and parent engagement and whatnot, it's really nice to see that when you're kind of feel like you're on the leading edge of things, and not that we don't have a ton of work to do on an ongoing basis, but our parent coordinators, you know, districts, this is not something most districts have, and let alone 3. Like, it's amazing that we have that, and we've invested in that, and we know the results are outstanding. About that, you know, we're one of the early adopters of ethnic studies, et cetera. So it's nice to kind of have that positive feedback that we're, for a tiny little district, we do some pretty good things. Again, not that we don't have a lot always to do, but it was always good to kind of hear that. So that's my summary.
That's great. Other trustees?
Well, Donna actually picked up on one of the things that I wanted to mention. I really think that, you know, I've only attended virtual conferences, so I don't have anything to compare it to. And I'm told that it's much better to be there in real life. But since I have nothing else to compare it to, I was really, really pleased to have the learning experience. And I think both of the years that I've attended, I really enjoyed hearing directly from school districts that are involved in specific best practices in some particular area. You know, that's what's really stuck in my mind as I walked away, was hearing, you know, places where they really have honed in on some particular challenge or thing they wanted to, you know, make better and done it, and having all the people who actually did that work, you know, giving their presentation. And so there was 2 that really stuck out to me. One was was about the anti-racism policy in Palm Springs School District. And they had, they had employees of the district talking about their personal experience in such a way that really showed, kind of the human transformation aspect of making anti-racism policy part of the action and work of the district. And I just thought it was really profound, because I think it is deeply personal, and working on change is something that comes very much from the spark of personal experience and the inspiration to do better, to have the people that are part of your community be more wholly themselves. And it was just really apparent in this discussion that that's what's happening there. And I thought it was just really moving and wonderful. And they also talked about all their implementation, but that's more detail than I'll get into tonight. And then the second one that really stuck out to me was the one that Donna mentioned, which was the Placer Union School District. I actually attended two things. One was a bigger session about student voice that had student trustees from all over the state having a big panel discussion about being a student trustee. And what really stuck out for me was the will that the students had to participate in the governance process, the interest they had in being representative of the student body and participating in the decision making. And I think that was something that really kind of surprised me and excited me, this idea that students would really step up to be part of the process of the governing body. And the Placer Union School District had their 4 student trustees there on the panel, and they were just fascinating. And they have a much different setup than we have. Their high schools they have one trustee from each student trustee from each high school, and they live, they're many miles apart. So the necessity to sort of collaborate and work together is kind of based on geography. But the district has set up this really robust program where they really get to participate in what's happening, and they learn all about, just the rules, the Roberts Rules of Order, the way that governance is conducted. And I just know from my personal professional experience that understanding those processes is really important to skill set in later life, and being ready to step up to take leadership roles. And I just thought it was really exciting and something that we should continue to look at. And the reason I was even watching those discussions is because I really think that we can do more to have student voice inform all of our decisions, and have student participation be a really important component of any decisions that we're considering, or many decisions that we're considering. So that was it. It was great, and it was a few months ago, so that was obviously just the high points.
Anyone else? Well, you kind of, said everything I was going to say much more eloquently, I think, but a couple of things that really hit me. One, well, I'll agree with the student voice and the student. I looked at them, listening to them, I'm thinking these are 20-year-olds. I mean, they've got to be at least 20, if not 30, but the maturity and their ability to understand as well as speak what, their view and how they're reacting. The equity piece, I can spend an hour going through that, but I won't. But it points out that as we continue on this journey, we have a lot of work to do. But it's nice to know that we're not alone, that there's a lot of districts out there that are also engaged in this work, equity and anti-racism. And we certainly have some models, or at least people we can talk to and give us some clues and some hints that we can refer to. And then I think finally, and I wrote down, and I didn't write down the district, but there was a large district on community communication, parent communication, which was, I can go back and look at my notes, but it was just outstanding. It was because it was so big, but they, the parent groups, the parent coffees, and again, there were probably 3 or 4 high schools in the district, but even at the elementary level, et cetera. But that outreach, which I know is important to us, but that constant communication, constant letting people know, constant asking for information from the community, and hopefully bringing that to fruition, but involving the community. And again, different socioeconomic levels, I guess I would say, everybody's involved. It's not just the middle class folks that always interested in getting their way, but everybody is pulled in, and the outreach is always ongoing. So I found that inspiring, and yet again, as has been pointed out, look at what we're doing in our tiny little district. We're doing a great job. But again, these kinds of things say, well, what else can we do? Maybe we can pick that little piece. So it was good to see. And my recommendation is that we report out closer to the conference. So at least I can remember all the details. My notes are few, and I will agree that virtual does not anywhere match in person. I mean, it's just a whole different feeling. And with Trustee Del Rey, she takes us to some fine eateries. So that was always a joy when we went 2 years ago. Yeah. Anyone else? Crystal or?
No, just that I agree. I think we need to do that. We need to attend in person. And even when they're not in San Francisco, I think it's important for us to participate every year. And definitely in person. Virtual, it's just, especially when you are working in a school district, it's really hard to not be pulled away during those virtual meetings or trainings. So I would highly, highly recommend that we allocate some funds for our professional growth and attendance of the CSBA.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you all. Moving on. And I just got a note that our interpreter is leaving. So if there's anybody who needs interpreting, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand and then we'll have to figure out what to do, Karen.
I'm sure that they've messaged that out to.
Yeah, it looks like everybody's.
Yeah,
but
they've
us,
messaged it out to
us 9 people are
people in Spanish. So yeah,
thank you. Next, 10.2B, the audit report, and I believe this is the Debbie Odetto show from now on.
Good evening. I am going to share the next 2 items kind of tandem together here. First being the audit report, which was very lengthy and it was a really, really long process this year. It probably took over 6 months, and doing the audit virtually was really, really trying, very difficult. And I was very concerned about how it was going to go down with distance learning last year and all of the attendance and all of the different changes. And I actually feel pretty good about it. A little summary of changes during the year was on page 10. I know the audit's kind of boring to read, but there's some highlights in the middle of it that kind of explain the audit in words. It's a little easier to comprehend. But I'm going to go to the back to the supplemental where they show the findings. So we had three findings this year. The first one being the ratio of administrative employees to teachers. This has been ongoing in Healdsburg. We're supposed to have a ratio of teachers, and we're at 8 administrative employees. We're supposed to be at 6.75 to balance to the teachers. We don't think it's possible for us to go any lower than that and still offer all of the robust programs that we're offering now. So that was an audit finding that we were expecting. The second audit finding is classroom teacher salaries. We're supposed to have a 55% of the teacher salaries to the ratio of expenditures, and we're at 51.9%. We did write to county office for a waiver for this because due to hardship, due to our OPEBs and special ed cost contributions to the general fund, the 2 of them together, if those were taken away, we would more than meet this percentage. And county office did grant the waiver, and this one I think will be an ongoing problem as well with the encroachment we have with special ed and our OPEBs liability. Our third finding had to do with unduplicated counts. This had to do with our lunch applications. the auditors had me pull over 100 lunch applications and looked at every single one individually. And last year was actually a very hard year for lunch applications because we were serving free meals and we weren't requiring lunch applications. And we were trying to do a combination of lunch applications and low income and alternative form they have, because we wanted to get our accounts good for other funding we get for like AP testing and different things that families can qualify for. In the big scheme of things, there were 6 students that we had claimed that we could not produce a lunch application for. And that's what this finding is about. And the corrective action on this finding would be to reconcile our POS system with our Aries software system and make sure that have the same information in both databases. Is there any questions?
Sounds like a lot of work, a lot of time, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Regarding the audit report, this is 10.2B. Do we have a motion for approval of the audit report?
I move to approve the audit report.
Donna, did I?
Thanks, Debbie, for explaining it so well too.
Yeah.
So moved that we accept the audit report.
Okay, so we have a motion by Roma Flores, second by Del Rey. All in favor, raise your hand. Thank you, it passes. Regarding 10.2C, certification of corrective actions for the 2021 audit findings. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved by Roma Flores, second by Trustee Lopez. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very
Thank
good.
you.
It passes. Thank you. And 10.2D, contract with the management corp for network upgrade. Debbie.
So this, we're asking for approval for a contract with IT Management Corporation. And this is for a network equipment refresh. We're working with our E-rate consultants and trying to update our system. We are eligible for 80% discount. That if you look on the second page of the cover sheet, it shows you the total cost of this project's over $309,000. And with the E-rate discount, we received a $207,000 discount. So IT supervisor Colin Dowling has been working very hard for months on this, trying to work this out with the E-rate consultants, and they've gone out to bid, received bids from several bidders that Colin has evaluated all of them and picked who he felt was best for the project. And we are ready to move forward.
Okay, and the reason for this is our antiquated system needs updating.
Yeah, the system, it usually lasts anywhere from 5 to 10 years, and we're at about the 7-year mark. And with this E-rate opportunity, it's a good time to move forward with it.
I would agree. Any questions, comments from trustees? This is an action item. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. McAllister motions. Do we have a second? Trustee Del Rey seconds. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. Thank you. Motion passes. 10.2E, contract with Matrix for the HVAC at the elementary school.
This contract is to upgrade HVAC at HES. And we actually have several HVAC units that have been failing at HES. We've taken care of small minor changes, but we haven't had the funding to take care of all of it. We've received a quote to begin the process with the kinder wing. And we are proposing that we use ESSER 3 funding for this, which was originally in the ESSER 3 plan to dedicate dollars to the facilities. And we're going to use the CUPCA limit. It came in under 175,000, so we didn't have to go out for a formal bid. So it's kind of a win-win for the district. And if this is approved tonight, we would move forward and start the project in the summer.
Excellent. Any questions or comments from the trustees? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Oh, motion?
Good. Trustee Lopez, don't already jump in. Do we have a second? Trustee Roma Flores, thank you. All those in favor? Raise your hand, please. Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
And F, this is the school district calendar.
This is a first reading for the 2022-23 district calendar. This is in line with Santa Rosa City Schools and most other districts in the county. It pretty much aligns with what we've done the past few years. We typically start school about a week later than other districts, get out a week later. Biggest change in this calendar from this year is that we're going back to the 181 days because we had added 2 days for 21-22. And this is going back to our original 181 days.
Okay. Any questions or comments from trustees? All right, this is a discussion item, so we'll be coming back, I suspect, for action.
It'll be coming back next month for action.
Right, exactly. And going on to G, the review emergency circumstance, Assembly Bill 361.
This is just the approval to move forward with the virtual meetings for another 30 days. Right now, we're planning to meet in March in person, but that'll be confirmed at a later date to make sure it's going to happen. But we do still want to offer virtual meetings for DLAC, ELAC, Site Governance Council, and other meetings.
Makes sense. Thank you. Any questions, comments from trustees? Do we have a motion? Trustee McAllister moves. Do I see a second?
That we approve 10.2G, review emergency circumstance.
That's correct.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
10.3, personnel, certificated substitute pay rates for 21-22. Brandy, you're up.
Thank you, Trustee Patmaso. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. And just bringing forward this item, we brought forward a previous increase to the subrates to you back in September that took effect in October. And we were one of the earlier districts in the county to do that. Thank you, Karen. And what we are proposing is now that we made our increase, then a number of other districts in the county decided to follow suit and increased their rates as well. And what the superintendent is looking at is trying to bring us a little bit more in line with Santa Rosa City Schools, who we have a lot of people pull from, particularly some of the more experienced subs. I will point out, we went back and forth about an increase to the general, actually, can you go to the other, this is like our previous one, can you, yeah, thank you, Karen, thank you. So we went back and forth with considering an increase to the days 1 through 10 half-day rate. But generally speaking, there aren't many of our absences that are half-day assignments. And Santa Rosa's half-day rate is still at $100. So the superintendent landed on not making a change to that particular rate for right now, and making increases to the other rates. And then I've kind of updated the formatting of this so it's a little clearer, because I heard from several people, particularly retirees, that were kind of confused about what the retiree rates were. And then the other thing we pulled from Santa Rosa is they put a temporary status on this increase. for just through the end of this current school year. So we've incorporated that similarly. It would be from March 1st through June 30th, technically. And I will say we have actually slowly been adding more new subs over the last month or so. I've registered a handful of new subs, so they are coming in. I do have, recruitment information out there saying that we are trying to hire more subs. And, people are coming in, but it's definitely still about half of the number of subs that we have historically had in the past. But I know we're not alone.
Francesca, do you have a feel for how many of those subs are retired teachers, HUSD or other? Or certificated people, maybe not even retired, but
Yeah, I would say it's still, the majority of our subs on our sub list are still people that hold a 30-day sub permit. We have a handful of our HUSD retirees and then some, I want to say Windsor retiree and Santa Rosa City retirees that sub for us, particularly ones who live in Healdsburg. They want to, work close to home. And a number of, I don't know if Erin is still on here, but a number of our retiree folks from HUSD, they help us on an ongoing basis. I mean, they've come in long-term sub situations. They help with LPAC testing. They're really coming to our aid in a lot of ways. So,
which is great.
Yeah.
I guess I was kind of just pondering, I mean, we certainly love our HUSD people, but in a goal to have as highly qualified as we can people in our classrooms, should we be looking at that slightly higher rate for any certificated, retired, or I mean, like, we want to attract good people to come here and sub, and I don't know.
I do. I'm, open to talking about that. And I believe the superintendent has actually had some conversations with some retired teachers from other districts about that as well. So,
and I will say,
it is for consideration.
Yeah, maybe one of the reasons that Franny called out my name is that our HUSD retirees have really pinched for us in very high need situations. So when Patrick McDowell passed, when we have teachers who are on extended maternity leave and they need to walk in and sub and know our rules. We talked about knowing the culture of the school, and it's one thing to be a retiree from another district. It's another to be an HUSD retiree and know where the bathroom is, know how to work the copier, but also to just know our kids, know our culture, know our families. I think partly why Francesca brought it up is, they've really helped us out in some of these high need situations where we needed somebody who knows our kids, knows our family, knows our culture.
Yeah. And I do want to point out on the cover, it is an increase of $20 per day for many of the rates. It should more appropriately say maybe up to $20 per day because of the not changing the half day, just coming in days 1 through 10.
So yeah, I just like to chime in just because I personally would rather have our retired teachers that are out there, even if they're not HUSD retirees, so working in our schools and having that kind of quality sub in our school versus going to neighboring districts that perhaps would pay them more. But so I would like to consider that. And then also, just to clarify, these rates are only effective from March 1st to June 30th, correct?
Yes.
So I would feel comfortable doing that, especially with I understand that there has been such a need for subs in our district. I'd like to have that conversation about perhaps raising or including retirees from even neighboring districts in that HUSD retiree rate, if we can get them to come and serve our students.
I two things. Do we know where we land in Sonoma County? Do we have the number? Where do we land in Sonoma County? Are we like at the top of the list of like
Karen, if Karen has that, it's so tiny. I'm sorry. Hello. So you can see like all the yellow folks are people who just fairly recently changed, or in our case will change. But there you can kind of get an idea as she scrolls through kind of where.
Awesome. I just wanted to share that with the folks who might be watching.
For sure.
And the second, I also agree with Araceli and Donna. I think if we can amend that so that, you know, retirees, they might be retirees who taught at Santa Rosa, Windsor, Cloverdale High School or other schools in our other districts, but might be living in Healdsburg. And like both of them said, if we could keep them in Healdsburg and they might not know our school culture, but they know our students and they know our community. So how, like, let's keep them here.
That sounds like a good idea. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to take that recommendation. And what I will do as a follow-up in addition to that is, I mean, I know of at least a couple of our subs that are registered that are retired from other districts, but I would just need to reach out to all of our subs, obviously, for some, because I don't know everybody, right, and where they come from. And then I will update my process of when they're registering to sub with us to get some kind of documentation that shows me that they're a retired teacher. Are you desiring for it to be, you know, are you thinking Sonoma County, or what are your, I mean, we could have retired teachers from all over hither and yon. I have no idea.
So I have the same question Trustee Lopez, Trustee Romo Flores have spoken to this and all about the other retirees. I know that other than HUSD retirees, are they retirees that live in Healdsburg and taught other places, or retirees from specific districts, or from Sonoma County, or from the state of California? The reason I'm asking is this goes into effect March 1st. And I guess my question also is, and I don't know if we have the answer, is how many of our substitutes are retirees? Let's just pick Sonoma County, for example. And you know, what would be the, I guess, fiscal impact, because I'm trying to do the numbers, $90 more a day if they're retirees, if I have the number right, or close to that. Oh, actually, it's 104.
Yeah.
But so my question is, what are you thinking, trustees? Are you thinking to do this now? Are you thinking to have it brought back, et cetera? I mean, I guess my recommendation, if we're going to do it, let's do it now so it starts March 1st. On the other hand, do we have enough information? I'll leave it at that. And then who do we include in that?
Well, I would like it to be as soon as possible, right? March 1st, because this is when we're needing them. I know, and it's not just Healdsburg, it's all of Sonoma County, that we are all competing for a very, you know, limited pool of subs. And so If we can entice them to work in our district, I would like to do that. I mean,
So which retirees, what group? Sonoma County, certain districts, or what?
I think just for the sake of simplicity, and since this is kicking in pretty quickly, it would probably be safe to just say Sonoma County. I definitely don't know that we would want necessarily to, if you talk about teachers outside of California, it's really different. But that's why I just think for the sake of simplicity right now, we could say Sonoma County and see how that goes. And again, I hear what Erin said about, I think, our local HUSD retired teachers definitely have a better read on culture and, where the bathrooms are and where the water fountain is and all that. And I don't want to minimize that. I mean, I think that is really valuable. And I am thrilled that, some of these retired teachers have really stepped up and helped us out the last couple of years in particular. But I agree. I think we need to look at overall just how do we get the highest quality people, right?
And I think that, I mean, if I understand the way it works in Hillsborough, I'm assuming it works this way in Hillsborough, it works this way everywhere else, where we definitely know our subs and we would be giving those slots to our retirees first, right? And then backfilling with other retired teachers if we know that information about them. But I hope we're giving preference to our HUSD retirees first, because again, there are HUSD retirees and they know our students, and for all of those reasons that were stated previously. I'm hoping that they are being asked to fill in those roles before anybody else.
They definitely are.
As a point of order, we're 1 minute to 9, so you all need to vote on extending.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah, if we can extend the meeting by 15 minutes, that would be great.
Can I move to extend the meeting for 15 minutes?
Yes, you may. Do we have a second?
Rose seconded. Yeah, no, Rose seconded.
Okay. All right. All those in
Just
favor?
muted.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay.
Definitely Sonoma County retirees would be much easier for me to figure out and verify too.
Do we need to specify that they're retired from a public district?
Well, they need to have a California credential, right? They need to be best, have all those requirements. So if
they're still gonna
county, they would have that.
Yeah, they're still gonna have their registration.
So let me ask the question and kind of go yes or no. So Francesca we're going to have a motion for amend it. So I'm hearing retirees from Sonoma County, or they retired from a public school. Is that what we're asking? Retirees from public schools? Because private schools the person could have a credential. So I'm hearing a yes or a no. Oops.
Or just credentialed, right?
Credentialed. I don't think we need to.
We don't care if the public. I'm asking.
We're not going to make Francesca's life that miserable.
Oh, come on. Okay. So any retirees from Sonoma County schools who have worked and retired at Sonoma County schools, is that what we're saying that would fit into that box? You know what I'm saying? Okay. Is that what I'm hearing?
K-12.
I'm hearing that, yes. Okay. So I would need someone to amend this.
I'm sorry, Debbie, did you say something?
Do you want to make it K-12 schools?
Question. Oh, any K-12, is that what you're saying? Okay.
You want to specify K-12?
Yes, that's fine.
I think so.
That's fine. I mean, no, I don't see them.
Versus what would be the alternative?
Community college or.
Okay, K-12, thank you. Thank you, Debbie. All right, so I'm hearing Sonoma County, retired Sonoma County schools, K-12 schools. Is that correct? So would somebody make that amendment? Do we have a motion to amend certificated substitute pay rates for 2021? Again, this only goes through June 30th. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All right, did we get the motion down, Karen?
Yes.
Okay. So the motion is to add any Sonoma County retirees K-12 retirees into the box where currently is HUSD retirees. All those in favor, raise your hand. I don't see ourselves, but I'm assuming it's a yes. Okay, the motion and so the amended motion
Thank you.
passes. Okay, it's getting late.
That was
Thank you.
exciting.
We'll talk. Okay, B, maintenance supervisor job description.
All right, so this is considered a first reading. We are talking about a certain amount of reorganization with our maintenance and operations department with the retirement coming of our current facilities maintenance and operations supervisor, and looking at kind of separating out the duties of supervising the maintenance folks. And then on the next item, I can speak to that then, but separating the custodial out from that. And it's also due to kind of the phasing out of so many of the facilities bonds projects that have been going on the last number of years.
Yes, yeah.
Many.
Okay, any questions, comments? Do we have a motion? No, this is a discussion item.
Yeah, it's just a discussion.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to C, custodial supervisor job description.
All right, so I'll bring that maintenance one back on consent next time.
Thank you.
And then, as I kind of alluded to, the other job description would be a new job description that is specifically providing supervision of our custodial staff district-wide. We believe this is fairly crucial to have more, input and more it being day-to-day oversight of what's happening at each of our sites, or sometimes what's not happening. Just keeping better tabs on things. It's really hard to do when you've got several plates you're juggling. So I think having someone that's focused just on the custodial staff is a good move for the district.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, thank you. Look forward to seeing that next
Thank you.
board meeting. Thank you. Thanks for staying.
Thanks so much.
Board trustees reports, comments, requests for information. Seeing none.
Wait, I have one, Mike, that I should have done during our announcements, but I just wanted to say we had a vaccine clinic a couple of weeks ago, and I do have the data from Alliance. We vaccinated 28 children and 113 adults. That includes anyone over the age of 12. So people are getting vaccinated, people want to get vaccinated. So happy to report that. And then HUSD has another vaccine clinics, the second one on the 26th, I believe. Karen, yes, on the 26th at Fitch.
At Fitch, yes. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Wish we had done that earlier, but I forgot to. Thank you. Any other comments? To the board, we said we were going to go back to closed. Are we still up for closed? Okay. No other comments, requests for information. This meeting is closed and we go to closed session.